Okay, we will move on to announcements and presentations. First item, for future planning, the city has embarked on fiscal sustainability effort to ensure that we are continuing to address your priorities, be a part of the process, and tell us what you think. A survey is available on the city's website, www.sanbruno.ca.gov, enhancing your San Bruno. Item B, we're going to receive a presentation from our fire and police chiefs regarding the city's requirements for use of safe and sane fireworks and the City of San Bruno's zero tolerance policy. Chief?
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor Medina and council members. Dave Cresta, Fire Chief, and I'll be joined shortly by Ed Barberini, the Police Chief, and we're going to review the city's requirements for the use and sale of safe and sane fireworks and talk about the city's zero tolerance policy for illegal fireworks. So just to recap on some of the stuff that we've done and are ongoing up until the holiday, on June 6th, police and fire staff conducted the fire safety seminar to the community members, representatives of the operating the fireworks booths. Staff is in the process of distributing informational warning notices to all city facilities and public and private schools. Here's an example of those. We have those available also at the fire station. There are some bigger ones as well. They'll be posted in those various locations, and some of our business partners in the community have asked for them as well. Cable television is running PSAs all month about the use of safe and sane fireworks and the penalties for the use of illegal fireworks. And on this Friday the 28th, all the fireworks booths will be inspected by the fire marshal. There'll be subsequent inspections by staff through the holiday. Just briefly talking about the use of safe and sane fireworks, they can begin being purchased and used on June 28th from noon till 9 p.m. and on the 4th from noon until 11 p.m. Safe and sane fireworks are only allowed on private property and have to be used within 10 feet away from a residence, building, or any structures. Fireworks are not allowed on public property such as streets, parks, schools, or private open space areas such as parking lots and vacant lots without the consent of the owner. We want to remind everyone to use safe and sane fireworks responsibly, which includes using them on a flat surface away from any grass or debris. An adult should be present when in the company of children, and we ask that a bucket of water, used fireworks, be disposed in a bucket of water, and hose is readily available to prevent any fires after the fireworks are used. So I'll turn it over to the police chief, and he's going to talk about zero tolerance policy.
Thank you, Chief, and good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. As in years past, officers from San Bruno, the San Bruno Police Department will be strictly enforcing the prohibited use of illegal fireworks this year, and the improper use of safe and sane fireworks as well, in the days prior to, on the holiday itself, and throughout the holiday weekend. Police staffing levels have been increased to accommodate these enforcement efforts, and on the 4th itself, all days off have been canceled. I'd like to acknowledge and thank all of our staff for the sacrifice they make every year, spending this holiday away from their families, even if it's their scheduled day off. Officers will be deployed in marked and unmarked vehicles, on bicycles, and on foot. Chief Cresta went through when and where fireworks can be used. The penalty for not adhering to the municipal code is either an arrest or a $1,000 fine. Typically, it includes an administrative citation that accompanies a $1,000 fine. As I mentioned, the police department will have non-uniformed personnel deployed looking for violations. While an individual may not be caught in the act or by a uniformed officer, he or she may be cited after the fact if observed to be committing a violation by an officer in the field. This may include receiving a citation on the dates following the 4th of July if officers were unable to issue it on the 4th itself. Video will be used when possible to document these violations. This strategy will also be employed to enforce Municipal Code Section 6.51.030. It's basically our version of the social host ordinance, which applies to anyone that allows, causes, maintains, or permits a violation to exist or continue by an act or omission. So if you have a residence that you're allowing to be used as a center for fireworks or illegal fireworks to be lit off, and we have evidence of that, you can expect to receive a citation either that night or after the fact. Throughout this week, officers will be contacting residents in areas where the use of illegal fireworks have been frequently used in past years. We'll review with these residents the existing statutes and alert them to our dedicated enforcement efforts. Public notices will also, or either have been, or will also be distributed via San Bruno Cable and our social media outlets. The police department wishes everyone a happy and safe Independence Day and urges all residents and visitors to our city to abide by the rules pertaining to fireworks while celebrating the holiday. As far as reporting the use of fireworks, as you can imagine, we get a large number of calls for service on the 4th of July itself. We do our best to answer each and every call for service. That's always been our policy, and we'll continue to do that. But please know that we are out there in a proactive and lean in and have a proactive stance regarding the use of fireworks. And the fact of the matter is that of the 22 administrative citations we issued last year, all of those were due to the proactive effort that our officers took in looking for violations. It's very difficult for us to respond to a call for service regarding fireworks and actually catch somebody in the act or in possession. It's kind of chasing your tail around. So we do get frustration on both sides of the issue and receive a lot of criticism on both sides of the issue. There's people that vehemently oppose the use of any type of fireworks, and then we get folks who say, hey, it's just one day a year. Cut us a little bit of a break, and they're both pretty passionate about what they feel. So when calling 911, please reserve the 911 lines for emergency. We would encourage all residents to only call 911 in the case of an emergency, which on any holiday there's a potential for, because people are gathering together in large groups. And if you were calling for a non-emergency call, we encourage you to use that number, which is 616-7100. That concludes my little informative presentation here, and I'd be happy to answer any questions along with the chief if you have any.
Any questions from council for the chiefs? Laura?
Yes, through the chair, just one question. So I appreciate that comment about not calling 911 for an emergency, but I know that there are a lot of residents who will say, oh, there's illegals going off over here, there's illegals going off over here, and they maybe want a way to be able to say, hey, have you checked that court, or have you checked that street? Is there a way that residents can kind of get that feedback without calling 911?
Sure. Our 911 systems are kind of our lifeline when we don't want to overload those. And seeing illegal fireworks going off, I know that people feel passionately about fireworks on both sides, is not what we would call a priority one or emergency call. Obviously, if there's a fire or something like that, that's a different story. However, what we try to remind people of is sometimes people get frustrated because they see patrol cars driving by. Well, in addition to the proactive units that we have out in the field, we're also responding to assaults, domestic violence. All of the calls we get on a nightly basis occur on 4th of July, if not even at a greater rate, because we seem to have some more people in the city that evening. So I would encourage folks who are wishing to report those types of things to use the business line, which again is 616-7100. And we do use calls for service to kind of gauge where the greatest activity is, but we're out in force that night, and we kind of have a pretty good idea of where the concentrated areas are, and that's where we focus a lot of our efforts. I always call the police if you're reporting any type of emergency, but just know that as bad as the fireworks are and sound, there are higher priority calls that we're responding to as well that evening. Not that it's not a priority, but it's safety first, property second, and disturbances and inconveniences third, and that's the way we approach it.
Thank you very much.
Marty?
I wanted to stress to the public about how difficult it really is to catch somebody. And if I heard properly, Chief Barberini, that of the 22 citations, that how many of those were actually the officer catching the lighting of the fireworks? Was there?
Well, all 22 citations that were issued last year were as a result of self-initiated activity by the officer themselves, and not as a result of a call of somebody complaining. So we know where the problem areas are. We have officers deployed in those areas, and even when we do, we have to figure out a way to. I mean, there's a whole due process component to this. We just can't blanket the city with $1,000 fines. We respect people's rights, and if we're accusing you of some wrongdoing, we have to be able to substantiate that or prove that. So unless we catch you in the possession of these types of materials, or we catch you in the act of lighting them off, it's a little difficult for us, and people get frustrated because we're always turning the corner at the wrong time. We get there 30 seconds after it went off, and we get those types of calls all the time, and I understand the frustration. But on the other side of the spectrum, we get some pretty passionate folks who believe that we should not be spending our resources in this area too. So there are strong beliefs on both sides of that.
Great. Thank you. And my question for our Chief Cresta would be, what could residents do about protecting their property, making sure like leaves are off their roof gutters, and just the idea of making your home a little safer during these fireworks?
Yeah, it's certainly always smart to check your roof, check surrounding area. You don't want combustibles stacked up against your house, rake leaves in the area. When you're using fireworks, obviously, it's really key to have that supervision, flat area, away from all that rubbish, and then, like I said, have a hose handy. And every year we usually get 1 or 2 fires of people just discarding the fireworks, safe and sane fireworks, in their toter, and then 3 or 4 hours later, in the middle of the night, it catches fire. Usually it's just near a fence, but sometimes we've had subsequent fires if they're against the house, and those fires aren't detected for hours, and pretty soon it could be a major problem. So just level-headed thinking, awareness around the use and safe and sane fireworks.
Thank you.
And just for myself, just as a reminder, I was reading a few posts. One is that why is the city of San Bruno still selling, and we're the only one in the county? City of Pacifica currently does as well by a voter initiative. City of San Bruno, back in 2005, the voters approved, I think it was about 63% or somewhere around there, for safe and sane fireworks to continue. There was also other posts about that the reason the city of San Bruno is doing it is because of all the money that we're making. And staff, director and manager can correct me, but aside from the city recouping its costs for the extra patrol, the public works, the parks, the cleanup, the city of San Bruno itself does not make money off the sale of safe and sane fireworks. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and it was just because obviously the thread started, and I wanted that to be clear. Keeping in mind when the measure was approved, it was for 18 groups. This year we have 14. So that has gone down, whether that's a sign of things to come of other groups not wishing or choosing, or the cost effectiveness for the work that they have to do. But this year, if I'm not mistaken, Madam Clerk, it is 14 groups, and there are 18 slots available.
That's correct.
Thank you. And those groups are also reviewed as far as, if you, Madam Clerk, if you could just say to someone, what are the criteria for a group being allowed to sell safe and sane fireworks?
The council has a subcommittee consisting of Vice Mayor O'Connell and Councilmember Salazar, who reviews all of the applications. The applications that come through are from nonprofit agencies local to San Bruno or has some connection to San Bruno, so that we're not getting agencies from, say, Southern California coming up to rent a booth because they want to make some money. And it is typical that the booths themselves don't actually make too much money, even the nonprofits that come in. They do it just for whatever they can get out of it.
Irene?
Oh, I just wanted to add, most of the booths are actually run by organizations that benefit students or youth groups. We have baseball, football, soccer,
Boys and Girls Clubs,
Boy Scouts, those kinds of, American Legion is in there, the Police Association, Lions, Rotary, and they all benefit something in San Bruno. So none of the money, I shouldn't say none of the money, but a majority of the money stays in San Bruno and benefits the residents of San Bruno somehow or another. So that was another piece of the criteria.
Anything else from council? If not, both chiefs, thank you. Next on the agenda, item C, we're going to receive the annual oral report from the San Bruno Community Foundation. Leslie.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council members. I'm Leslie Hadamia, and I've been the Executive Director of the San Bruno Community Foundation for the past 4.5 years. And with me this evening is our Vice President, Emily Roberts. I really appreciate this opportunity every year to come before you to give a recap of our past year's activities. Once again, we have been very busy administering a broad array of programs that benefit the San Bruno community, utilizing the restitution funds resulting from the tragic 2010 gas pipeline explosion. I'd like to start by highlighting the 2 programs that the foundation itself runs. The first is our Crestmore Neighborhood Memorial Scholarship, which we launched in 2016 to honor the community members who most directly endured the 2010 tragedy. This scholarship assists San Bruno students who have demonstrated a deep commitment to the San Bruno community. Earlier this month, we awarded our fourth set of college scholarships totaling $120,000 to 9 impressive high school and community college graduates. Thank you to those council members who were able to attend our scholarship reception and presentation, and especially to Mayor Medina for personally addressing the scholars at our awards ceremony. I hope you've had a chance to look at their bios. They're on our website because these impressive young people really give us great hope for our future and our community. Our second program is our Community Grants Fund. We also created that in 2016, and this program allows local community groups to apply for funding of up to $25,000 for programs that benefit the San Bruno community. At the end of 2018, we awarded our third set of community grants, which totaled $300,000, thanks in part to a generous $100,000 donation from YouTube and Google.org. The 25 grants went to, you can barely read it, I know it's a lot, went to a diverse set of community groups, as you can see from the slide, from My Digital Tattoo to the Legal Aid Society of San Mateo County to the Lowen Soccer Club to the Peninsula Conflict Resolution Center. The city received 2 community grants, one for the Narita Sister City Exchange Program and another to support essential emergency management training for the city's senior leadership team. We will launch our 4th community grant cycle next week with an application deadline of September 25th. We just received the check, and I'm happy to announce that YouTube and Google.org will again be contributing $100,000 to this program. And so with the $200,000 that the foundation will be putting into it, we'll be able to award another $300,000 in community grants at the end of the year. In total, over the 3 years, Google has contributed a combined total of $300,000 to this program, and we appreciate the fact that they've been able to, for us to increase our giving in this area by 50%. We've also been happy to support the local public schools with 2 different initiatives over the past couple of years. 2 years ago, we launched the Music Education Strategic Initiative, which aims to make music education a hallmark of San Bruno's public schools. We are providing nearly $500,000 over 3 years to the San Bruno Education Foundation and the Cappuccino High School Alumni Association to benefit the music programs at all San Bruno Park School District schools and Cappuccino High School. We just completed the 2nd year of the initiative, during which we funded the Music for Minors program at all 5 elementary schools and instrument and equipment purchases at Parkside and Cappuccino. We also enjoyed the initiative's inaugural Music in the Air community concert that took place last November. The idea behind the initiative is to partially fund not just the programs, but to bolster the fundraising capabilities of both the Education Foundation and the CAP Alumni Association so that these programs will be sustainable once foundation funding sunsets. The initiative has received numerous awards, both on the national and local fronts, and most recently, it received the Partners in Educational Excellence Award from the Association of California School Administrators, Region 5. Last summer, the foundation also approved a $250,000 grant to support the San Bruno Park School District's transformation efforts. The funding covered the program implementation fees for the SEAL literacy program being implemented at Allen and Bel Air elementary schools, particularly to benefit the large population of English learners in grades K through 3 at those schools. The grant also allowed Parkside to utilize the expertise of the San Francisco nonprofit Partners in School Innovation to transform the school culture and provide better support for the teachers and leadership team at Parkside. Both of these programs support the district's new vision for schools with tomorrow inside to accomplish educational and facilities transformation. Finally, we are excited about all of the projects we are doing in partnership with the city. As you know, we are proud to partner and support the city's plan to build a new recreation and aquatic center in San Bruno Park with a commitment of $50 million. We funded the conceptual design phase, which ended up being a $416,000 grant, with final payment last November. We have signed 2 additional grant agreements with the city for this project, one in January for architectural services through the duration of the project for about $5.4 million, and one in May for project and construction management services for just a little over $1 million. These 2 grants are being paid on a quarterly schedule based on reporting from the city. The 3 grants together account for about $6.9 million of the $50 million total. We look forward to the conclusion of the schematic design process later this year and hearing from the city about the next steps in the project, including the city's business plan for operating this much-needed new resource for our community. For the past 4 years, the foundation has also been a proud sponsor of the city's Community Day in the Park, which we all enjoyed 3 weeks ago. As we have in the past, the foundation assisted the city in bringing in additional sponsors for the event, which are listed on the slide. And we were thrilled to have the city staff also participate in this fundraising component and bring in a number of new sponsors supporting the event. We were also happy to see the conclusion of our partnership with the city and YouTube to bring pedestrian safety improvements to San Bruno this year. With $126,000 from YouTube and nearly $100,000 from the foundation, flashing beacons now aid pedestrians at 5 unsignalized crosswalks, 2 near Parkside, 1 in front of Portola Elementary, 1 in front of John Muir Elementary, and a final set on the south end of San Mateo Avenue. In March 2018, the board approved a strategic grant totaling about $161,000 to the city for 3 projects aimed at enhancing the effectiveness of San Bruno's first responders. The 3 projects included police mindfulness training, emergency shelter supplies, and critical facility site assessments. We are pleased that all 3 projects have been completed, and we are in the process of preparing the final grant payment for this project. As you know, after the April 2018 shooting at YouTube's headquarters, Google.org and employees of Google and YouTube contributed more than $300,000 to our first responder efforts. And just a few weeks ago, the Foundation Board approved a grant to cover the acquisition and construction of a mobile command vehicle for the city using these funds. We look forward to working with the city to execute the grant agreement once the city finalizes its plans for the mobile command vehicle. In accordance with our bylaws, the Council's consent calendar this evening includes the Foundation's fiscal year 1920 budget. Just a few words about our budget for you. The expenses include nearly $1.14 million in direct program disbursements, including $475,000 for 2 new rec center grants, 1 for temporary facilities and 1 for consultants to help develop the business and operational plan, and the balance for scholarships, community grants, an additional first responder grant, and Community Day. In addition, the budget includes about $400,000 in support costs. We do not show investment income on our investment accounts on our budget. The board designates the payout or amount to transfer from our investment accounts to cover the year's cash flow needs. Thus, what the budget shows are the funds actually available for our operations. It shows that we are taking a 1.9% payout from the quasi-endowment, or roughly $318,000, which will cover the program disbursements for community grants and the scholarship, and the balance needed to cover our cash flow needs, about $4.8 million coming from the strategic pool, most of which will be covering grants related to the recreation center. Our budget also does not reflect the totality of our investment holdings, but I'd like you to know that as of May 31st, our total assets exceeded $74 million. So we're above where we started from several years ago, and that's after paying out more than $2 million in strategic grants and about $750,000 in community grants, $260,000 in Christmas scholarships, and our operating expenses since inception. So the money has been well taken care of. We respectfully ask the City Council to approve the Foundation's fiscal year 1920 budget. This action will allow the Foundation to continue moving forward on its current trajectory to use the restitution funds to enhance the quality of life for all of us in San Bruno. Before I close, I'd like to acknowledge by name the board members who have been key to the foundation's success, in addition to Vice President Roberts, who's here. We have President Frank Headley, Secretary John McLaughlin, Treasurer Tim Ross, and board members Pat Bohm, Nancy Krause, and Dr. Regina Standback Stroud. We will be sad to see 3 of our original board members, Frank Headley, Pat Bohm, and Regina Standback Stroud, roll off the board after 2 terms at the end of this year. They have been instrumental in helping the foundation get to where it is today. As you may know, Dr. Standback Stroud has submitted her resignation from our board 6 months early at the end of this month to coincide with her retirement from Skyline College. Earlier this week, we submitted to you our recommendations to assist you as you consider appointments to fill the open slots. We thank the council for the opportunity to participate in this process and for taking up this matter next month. And finally, I just want to thank the city staff that have been so instrumental in our success as well. City Manager Javon Grogren, City Attorney Mark Zaffarano, and all of the senior leadership team who provide the foundation with counsel and advice and assistance on all of the different projects we do, and we greatly appreciate their assistance. I hope you agree that the foundation has had another very productive and busy year. And I'd be happy to take any questions you may have about our activities. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. Questions from council? Michael, please. Comment?
Leslie, I just wanted to thank you for being here and sharing this information tonight. I think it was actually kind of timely because recently we had some questions come to the council about how the money is being spent. Is it being spent appropriately, and were we aware of how it's being spent? And so having you review the program, all the programs that are being funded tonight is actually very timely, and appreciate the comments on the budget, which we'll be approving later. So thank you for all that you do.
You're welcome.
Any other comments or questions? Marty.
First of all, thank you for your presentation, and looking forward to many more things. Speaking of which, the next year grants, community grants, that will roll out at what time? And
it will be, the application will be available next week, and the application deadline will be September 25th.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? If not, Leslie, thank you. Emily, thank you for being here. Thank you for your presentation. I can tell you by one who was here with the scholarships, the stories of the young people, some that I just saw graduate from CAP a short time before that, on that Friday, was some that came back that had received the scholarships. One lady in particular still is on my mind, which is a young woman that came back with her son, who had always volunteered and had always given. And she's a young lady with a young child. And unfortunately, she has struggled, and she was very clear and very honest at the mic that you're standing at right now, Leslie. And unfortunately, her son lost his father within a year ago. And so at such a young age, but what has sustained her was not only getting this start from the scholarship that allowed her to pursue her education, but that also her volunteering and her encouraging those that were receiving the scholarships that day to further their education career. And the opportunities that it really brings, because it is so expensive right now, has been something that has been, I think, as one of the neighbors from the area that was affected on that night in 2010, said that this was a part of the continuation. It was that folks that suffered, folks that we lost, the 8 residents, did not in vain, that there was a part of them that went on forward, and it was going to go on forward as they helped and ensured the success in our future here in this community and wherever they may travel. So a lot of great things happened, a lot of great things happening. So thank you for all your help and support, and please tell the board of our thanks and appreciation.